Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order.
Mr.
Order.
Speaker. The tradition of Parliament in this country since independence is quite clear. Sir Noble Arden Clark was sworn into office in Parliament, before Parliament. Lord Listowel was sworn into office in Parliament, before Parliament. The late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah himself was sworn into office in Parliament, before Parliament. General Efrifa was sworn into as head of state in Parliament, before Parliament. The late Justice Akufo-Addo was sworn into office in Parliament, before Parliament. And the last, Dr. Hilary Liman, was sworn into office in Parliament, before Parliament. The precedents are clear because 1992 is a minority of one. These are not colonial precedents. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was not. Mr. Speaker, these are the precedents of independent Ghana since 1957 for our young friends who do not know the history.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
And seriously, Mr. Speaker, I do hope that we will make use of the precincts of Parliament as other legislatures do. In a little while, the President of the United States will be sworn into office in the forecourt of Congress, in Congress, before Congress. Yes, here's your forecourt. Yes, in Parliament, before Parliament. Because, Mr. Speaker, the premises of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, consist not only of this chamber, but of the premises of Parliament. And that is the law. The premises of Parliament, that is the law. The premises.
Order, order. Order, order.
Mr. Speaker, the premises of Parliament, including your own office.
Honourable members,
Mr. Speaker, the premises of Parliament,
please,
including your own office and the whole premises, this is the home of Parliament. And I'm making this point quite seriously because it is our wish on this side of the House that the authority and dignity of Parliament should be affirmed and reaffirmed on every possible occasion as one of the bulwarks of our freedom.
At the Independence Square this afternoon, I will put the question without debate. As many as are in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. As many as are against say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion is carried.
Good evening, welcome to the show. Tonight we'll be doing a lot with the evolution of Parliament in Ghana because certain things are happening in Parliament that need to be reviewed historically. For instance, Speaker Bagbin yesterday made a statement on the floor of the House, and in making the statement, he was also making an announcement to the House that he had been served with a writ, and given the circumstances of the writ, he was unable to proceed with the Parliament's discussion of the committee, the appointment committee's preliminary work in interviewing the nominees of the President for various positions as ministers of state, and deputy ministers. That was quite novel. Speaker Bagbe's statement said that he was keeping in line with the president's direction, where the president had written an earlier letter indicating that some matter was before the Supreme Court and therefore he was unable to continue the process with Parliament in getting a bill passed. The Speaker also referred to the Attorney General's letter, who also wrote a letter to the President in similar regard. But drama ensued this morning when at about 9 o'clock in the morning, the Attorney General's office wrote a request to the registrar, the Judicial Secretary and the registrar, I think it's the registrar of the court, to find out whether indeed a writ for an injunction application has been processed, so that they will take their copy and then begin to prepare their defense for it. Because, as it were, all actions against government are instituted against the Attorney General. Now, the story began then, and the interest in the story was generated because the Attorney General's search for the application for injunction turned out to be a negative one. Meanwhile, the day before, the Speaker had announced to Parliament in this video that I will show you that he had received a document from the courts, and that document had compelled him to conduct affairs of Parliament in a certain way. Various interpretations of the matter have come up. Some say the Speaker is right, some say the Speaker is wrong. Tonight, as we always do, we have our distinguished pleasure to share with you all the various angles from the research that we have provided. And that's why we're going to be heavily relying on this book. The Evolution of Parliament in Ghana is written by Ayesu and Dakwa. They were serious clerks of Parliament since the Nkrumah era. And I'm going to show you tonight, historically, the similarity of what has happened in Parliament yesterday and what happened between D.F. Annan and Mr. J.H. Mensah. And we're going to be dealing with all that. We're also going to look at whether or not it is true that the Speaker actually truncated a constitutional process that he has no mandate and authority so to do. A constitutional process being the President nominating an individual for ministerial appointment pursuant to Article 78, and the President then writing to Parliament and say that he's submitting these names for Parliament's processes under the term prior approval. How does that also stop? Because the President has said that there's another matter in the Supreme Court. I don't understand that. And many people have not understood that. But some still argue that the Speaker is right. We're going to hear all sides, all shades of opinion on this matter tonight. Then, as usual, we will leave you to make your decision. This is Good Evening Ghana and it's live. This is what happened in Parliament yesterday around between 4 and 5 o'clock when our attention was drawn to it. It was about that time. This is Speaker Bagbe. This is a video, authentic. It's not AI faked. It is very authentic. This is what Speaker Bagbe said. That will form the beginning of our analysis tonight. This is what he said.
I also bring to your attention the receipt of a process from the courts titled Roxanne Nelson Eche K. Dafiamapo versus the Speaker of Parliament and the Attorney General, suit number J1/12/2024, which process was served on the 19th, that is yesterday, March 2024, and an injunction motion on notice seeking to restrain the Speaker from proceeding with the vetting and approval of the names of the persons submitted by His Excellency the President until the provisions of the Constitution are satisfied. Honorable members, in the light of this process, the House is unable to continue to consider the nominations of His Excellency the President, to use the language of the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, quote, in the spirit of upholding the rule of law, unquote, until after the determination of the application for interlocutory injunction by the Supreme Court. Honorable members, this is the precedent that is being set by His Excellency the President for all Ghanaians to follow.
So we've heard that. I'm not so sure why a Speaker of Parliament, in making a decision or making a statement, will refer to a president that has been set by the president. The president hasn't set any precedent in that regard. It is known, well known, as the lawyer says, right, for when there's an application or there's an interlocutory injunction on anybody and notice of injunction is given to the other party, that notice of injunction should operate as an injunction. It's not the President Akufo-Addo who is setting that precedent, as Speaker Bagbe said. Maybe he's talking about another kind of precedent, but if it's just the precedent that when you are an authority and an injunction application has been made against you and that injunction application is brought to your notice, as in you have been served, it is said that the notice of the injunction operates as an injunction. So you are supposed to restrain yourself from doing what you were going to do, which the injunction is restraining. So it's not, he said, this president, that's what he said at the end, this president has been set, and it's not even clear what is the injunction from Mr. Daffy-Amakpo. What injunction is he seeking? Is he seeking an injunction that the president cannot nominate an individual for ministerial appointment under Article 78? Clearly, he cannot seek an injunction against a constitutional provision that gives the president the right to do so. If the president says that I'm not signing a bill because it's in the Supreme Court, I will consider a bill, because that's not a basis to say when the president has sent his nominees under Article 78, then therefore something that should be curtailed. One cannot curtail that. Then Article 78 does not offer any authority of state the right to curtail that, unless maybe Parliament is on recess, Parliament is not sitting, or something like that. But the President has sent names to Parliament. The people have been vetted by Parliament, pursuant to the constitutional provision. Parliament's committee has generated a report. The process is that report comes to the Committee of the Whole. The Committee of the Whole is going to consider the report. What has that got to do with an injunction in courts? There's nothing in courts about that. If Daffy-Amakpo is going to court for something, it cannot be about that. How can he go to court about? The Constitution has given the president the right to do so. Anyway, let me not talk too much. Let me show you the law on the touch screen and then show you why this book is here. Before we do that, though, my bosses want me to take a break. I'm very sorry, viewers. Having given you a high-pitched appetite and now saying to you that we take a break. But the break is important. It's only 5 minutes long. After the break, I will get onto the touch screen, which is just by my side. I cross the NDC flag, and then I get to the touch screen, and after that, there's an MPP flag there as well. After the break, I'll be back. This is Good Evening Ghana, and it's live. All right, welcome back to the show, and let me just grab the book over here, and let's set out the details. Okay. So let me ask you, viewers, what is the difference between 9:05 in the morning and 10:10 in the morning? It's a little bit an hour and something, isn't it? All right, okay. So we're going to settle a few matters here. We have an opinion on this matter. We'll render it at the end. But our responsibility at the beginning is to tell you the full story and the story as it is. We have an icebreaker, though. We have an icebreaker, and thank you for reminding me on this one. Good evening, Alhaji Bawumia. I hope the campaign is fine. So there's been talk about Bawumia and the ID card. This is separate from the Parliament one. I'll come to that. This is just a breaker for you, so that you can get ready, get your coffee, get your tea, get your cocoa drink, get your sobolo, everything. Get it ready, because we're going to be doing a lot on the touch screen today. We're going historical, coming to the present and firing into the future, isn't it? Good evening again, and welcome to the show. Dr. Alhaji Bawumia is here because he's been championing the identification management systems of all Ghanaians since he became vice president. He's been able to achieve it. It's part of this year's campaign, and there's conversations about who started it, who didn't start it, and some supporters of John Mahama said that it was John Mahama who started it, and Bawumia people are laughing at them, and John Mahama people are laughing at Bawumia. But here is Dominic Ayini, a member of parliament and a former deputy attorney general, who appears to have a testimony for the ID card. He has a very positive testimony about how the ID card has impacted his life. Dominic Ayini, have a look.
The first thing I would say is that, I'm so awestruck, I'm lost for words. And to think that this is being done by a Ghanaian company fully owned Ghanaian company, that, is being operated and run, by Ghanaians. It's, for me, heartwarming. One thing I can say is that today, the members of parliament from the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, as well as the Defense and Interior Committee, have had their eyes opened to the multifunctional character of the Ghana card, that beyond it being used, for voter registration, it is also a card that can, provide the basis of even fiscal stability. It can prevent, cyber crime. And as I once said, on Joy FM, it can provide us not only clean elections, but also a clean society. And I think that all of you are witnesses to what has happened today. As a group, in a bipartisan manner, support, the work, not only of the NIA, but also this Ghanaian multinational company, for it to succeed. So it is not something that is keyed in to the politics of the NDC and the politics of the MPP. It is, neutral as to party.
That was Dominic Ayini of the NDC. So if this is the story about the ID card, why do we always hear different stories to suit different people, and they say it separately for different purposes? There's only one story about the ID card. The Ghana card is a positive thing. It can only be positive. There's no negativity absolutely no negativity about it. But this is what the Archbishop told me some time ago. I still feel the weight of the Archbishop's palms on my leg when he told me that the politics we are doing in Ghana, if somebody is in power, you just cut him off. Anything he does is not good. You have to make sure he doesn't succeed. He has a policy that is good. You smash it away just so that you can also come to power. Have a look.
What we are doing right now, we are not going anywhere. Because watch this. I'm telling you, what we are doing right now, I want you to stand. Let me show you something. Just stand. If I'm in opposition, just face this way. If I'm in opposition and you are in office, I hold your leg like that. Try to move.
Yeah.
Try to move.
I cannot move.
Try to do something. You are not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I will make sure I circumvent you and sabotage you until you leave office.
Wow.
And when you also come,
same thing.
I will also do the same to you. So I don't wish you well, you don't wish me well. So the nation is bleeding. The nation is bleeding. What we are doing right now, we are not going anywhere. Because watch this, I'm telling you, what we are doing right now, I want you to stand. Let me show you something. Just stand. If I'm in opposition, just face this way. If I'm in opposition and you are in office, I hold your leg like that. Try to move.
Yeah.
Try to move.
I cannot move.
Try to do something. You are not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I will make sure I circumvent you and sabotage you until you leave office.
Wow.
And when you also come,
same thing.
I will also do the same to you. So I don't wish you well, you don't wish me well. So the nation is bleeding. The nation is bleeding.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Bawumia. You had the green book here. I thought that was good. Why did you take it off? Okay, they will bring it back. Yes, excellent. So this is the evolution of Parliament in Ghana. And as usual, I like to recommend it. Every journalist, young person, anybody who wants to read something, I think the University of Ghana bookshop may have copies of this book. I bought mine a very, very long time ago. I was actually at the launch at the IEA in 1997 or something like that, or 98, I think it was. That's when this book was launched. It was launched by Ayensu SN Dakwa, and everyone was there. It was a very beautiful event. I think it was chaired by BJ Darocha in those days. So you should get a copy of this book if you're a journalist. And the evolution of Parliament in Ghana is fantastic. There's a lot of information in it. I'm going to share some with you tonight. Okay, so we are talking about the Speaker of Parliament and the Speaker of Parliament, the members of Parliament, the President's power to appoint ministers, the President's power to reassign ministers, the President's power to take portfolio away from a Minister of State and leave him without a portfolio. That's another authority of the president that we don't seem to notice. We're going to distinguish tonight between the Minister of State and a minister with portfolio. What is the role? What does it mean to say Minister of State? What is the constitutional responsibility on Parliament when the president nominates people? What are they vetting them for? Are they vetting them for Transport Minister, or they are vetting them for Minister of State? We'll find out all of these. It's intellectual, but it's useful. Then we go to the Attorney General's letter. We'll check out the essence of that. We're going to break down the Attorney General's letter and look at the essence of it. The letter the Attorney General wrote to the Speaker this morning. We're going to look at and break down the essence of it. And then after that, we'll share with you our opinion. So this matter is also about vetting and ministers and the President's power to appoint ministers. So sometime in 1997, in those days, the budget was not read in November. It was read in March, around this time. Sometime in March 1997, or maybe a bit later than that, the Parliament's order of business, the business order of Parliament, had on the business order paper a presentation of the budget by the Minister of Finance, Richard Kwame Pepra. It was in the business house, the House's business paper, something like that. So the business committee had looked at it, and this is it. J.H. Mensah became alarmed that, why are we having Mr. Kwame Pepra in the House to present the budget? He has not been vetted. He's not been approved by Parliament. What is going on? So he complained by a letter, and this is what I'm selling to all our MPs right now. This is what I'm selling to our Parliament. The quality of the debate in terms of the decorum of it. J.H. Mensah did not go and talk to media. No. He wrote a letter to the Speaker about what is beginning to concern him relating to the business committee suggesting that Kwame Pepra was to present the budget to Parliament. Let's see. Let's look at the story. Let's look at the story and then get to J.H. Mensah's letter. So let's go quickly and look at the story so people can go to bed. This is Ayensu and Dakwa writing on page 121 of their book. Early in February, the President's office informed the Speaker by a letter that the President had decided to retain certain named ministers of state. So this is the first paragraph. Early in February, the President sent a letter and said he wanted to retain some ministers. What does it mean to retain? Flight Lieutenant Rawlings had won the election in 1992 and had operated a first term. He had been re-elected by Ghanaians for a second term. So ministers that he had used in the first term, he was writing to Parliament in February, 1 month after his inauguration, that he would like to retain the same ministers. This is the story. Okay, it goes on. The minority view of this was that retention of ministers, in contrast with the appointments of ministers, was unknown to the law and the Constitution. In a bid to resolve the argument, the minority leader J.H. Mensah took out a writ asking the Supreme Court to give a true and proper interpretation of certain provisions of the Constitution. Subsequently, on February 13th, the minority leader wrote to the Speaker. Now, minority leader wrote to the Speaker, I didn't know it was as early as February 13th, because having received the President's letter of intention to retain ministers, the business order now said that Richard Kwame Pepra was coming to present the budget. So J.H. Mensah quickly took out his pen and wrote this beautiful letter to the Speaker. It's as follows on page 122 of the book. I guess that we've shared this letter before, but let me do it again. And I'm happy for your patience and your time. I'll get to the matter very soon. All right. Appointment of ministers, Article 78(1) of the Constitution. This is the letter J.H. Mensah is writing, and that's J.H. Mensah's photograph. May he rest in blessed peace. What a great man he was. It says, Mr. Speaker, Appointment of ministers, Article 78 of the Constitution, with reference to the President's letter to you on 10th February 1997 and the various consultations that have taken place on the issue of the appointment of ministers, I will be very grateful if you would confirm that in submitting the names listed in the first paragraph of his letter as members of his new cabinet, the President was inviting Parliament to exercise his power of prior approval of their appointment as ministers. The letter goes on. I am seeking this confirmation in order to be assured that no action in Parliament is taken which in any way prejudices the determination of the constitutional issues raised in my writ, of which you have notice. I will be grateful for an urgent response to this letter. Beautifully written. Beautifully. J.H. Mensah did not even refer to Kwame Peprah. He says that he is seeking this confirmation because he wants to be assured that no action will be taken in Parliament. He was referring to the action to be taken in Parliament relating to the appearance of Richard Kwame Peprah, the finance minister, to come and read the budget. Kwame Peprah had been finance minister before the election, and President Rawlings said, I want to retain some ministers. Kwame Peprah is one of them. Does he need parliamentary approval? Does he not need parliamentary approval? The view of J.H. Mensah and the minority, including Nana Akufo-Addo, the lawyer who did the case, said that he needed parliamentary approval. It appeared that Fly Lieutenant Rawlings' legal advice was that he didn't need parliamentary approval. So, J.H. Mensah is saying that I hope that Parliament doesn't do anything, i.e., listen to the budget. That's what he meant. Parliament doesn't do anything. He says that I assure that no action in Parliament is taken which in any way prejudices the determination of the constitutional issues raised in my writ, of which you have noticed. I will be grateful for an urgent response. Now, this is the interesting thing. There was no injunction filed over here. It was a writ without an injunction. He says, Mr. Speaker, I filed a writ in Parliament. You know it. The Speaker could have proceeded to go on without it. The courts can do what they want to do. The Parliament is doing what they do. That's what they tell us these days. But that's not what it used to be. That's why I want this book to become a blueprint for all of us, journalists and members of Parliament. That's not how they used to work. They didn't need an injunction for people to look at it and look at the law and look at it fairly and squarely and move on and decide what to do. He said, D.F. Anand could have said, okay, you can fight your writ however you want to fight with the Supreme Court. I am going on with my work as Speaker. Kwame Peprah will read the budget. You can do what you like. When the court is finished, you should tell us what to do. But I'm going ahead. It could have been technically within the Speaker's right to say so. But let's listen to what the Speaker said. Now, this is J.H. Mensah. He says he wants an urgent response. Now, he wanted an urgent response because Kwame Peprah was on his way to Parliament. Justice D.F. Anand responds. He says, Ayensu tells us that the Speaker responded urgently. Honorable J.H. Mensah minority that DSA, appointments of ministers, Article 78 of the Constitution. He says, I acknowledge the receipt of your letter, reference so and so and dated 13th February 1997 on the appointment of ministers, Article 78 of the Constitution. He goes on, my reading of the express words of the letter from the President's office leads me to the view that all the names of the persons proposed, whether they are retained ministers or newly nominated ministers, were submitted to the House for the purpose of the discharge of the House's constitutional responsibility in relation to the approval of ministers. Processes and procedures leading to approval or rejection of ministers remain entirely within the competence and authority of this House. I agree, and this is the most important part. This is the most important part. When you read this, you feel like applauding D.F. Anand. He said, I agree that no action may be taken in Parliament which in terms of our standing orders prejudices the determination of the constitutional issues raised in your writ, which is now pending before the Supreme Court. Yours sincerely, D.F. Anand, Speaker. Upon this letter, the Speaker directed that Richard Kwame Peprah cannot present the budget before Parliament pending the determination of the suit by J.H. Mensah. That's how it used to be. D.F. Anand is an NDC man. He's a PNDC man. He's an NDC man. Rawlings was president. Everybody knows Rawlings. He sent his finance minister to go and read budget so that they can pay people, and then you are telling him some law, some constitution, some J.H. Mensah from somewhere says that some old politician, as Rawlings will see them, some old politician says that he is in court. So he's in court, he should go to court. Who cares? But this was D.F. Anand. He said, I agree that no action may be taken in terms of Parliament which is no action may be taken in Parliament, which in terms of our standing orders prejudices the determination of the constitutional issues raised in your writ, which is now pending before the Supreme Court. That's what happened. That's what happened. Now, what happened yesterday? Let's get quickly to yesterday and then deal with it. What happened yesterday? The Speaker of Parliament, the day before yesterday, spoke to Parliament and said that he has suspended Parliament's processes of approving ministers, ministerial nominees sent by the President. 2 or 3 categories of them, we'll get to that. Reassigned ministers and also ministers who have been nominated for Parliament consideration under the Appointments Committee. He said he has stopped both for the reason that a writ of summons and an interlocutory, that's how he pronounced it, interlocutory injunction is being filed at the Supreme Court, of which he, Mr. Speaker, has notice. This is what the Speaker said. Let's hear the Speaker.
I also bring to your attention the receipt of a process from the courts titled Roxanne Nelson Eche K. Dafiamapo versus the Speaker of Parliament and the Attorney General, suit number J1/12/2024, which process was served on the 19th, that is yesterday, March 2024, and an injunction motion on notice seeking to restrain the Speaker from proceeding with the vetting and approval of the names of the persons submitted by His Excellency the President until the provisions of the Constitution are satisfied. Honorable members, in the light of this process, the House is unable to continue to consider the nominations of His Excellency the President, to use the language of the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, quote, in the spirit of upholding the rule of law, unquote, until after the determination of the application for interlocutory injunction by the Supreme Court. Honorable members, this is the precedent that is being set by His Excellency the President for all Ghanaians to follow.
Quite clearly, Speaker Bagbin had forgotten about this precedent from D.F. Annan in terms of Parliament's relationship with matters in court. This really was his precedent, certainly not President Akufo-Addo's example. This was another speaker. This was his precedent. Anyway, so that's what happened. That's what Speaker Bagbin said. And then this morning, so everybody was talking about this last night. Even any political watcher was talking about this last night. And then this morning, a document came out of the stable of the Attorney General. And he granted an interview to Joy FM in the morning, mid-morning. And the interview surprised everyone because the Attorney General said that he had checked and there had been no application filed in terms of an injunction. But the Speaker said that he had seen it. And he even purported to read it. I'll show you the video. The video is there. You can check. But the Speaker clearly said that he had seen it. It may look simple, trivial, but it's not. Cannot be. This is a Speaker of Parliament suspending the sitting of Parliament based, as the Attorney General said, on something false. Let's look at the letter that the Attorney General wrote to the Speaker and go through it one by one. Then we can take it from there. Let's look at the letter. It's going to come up. Does it follow this? No, it doesn't. Okay, so this is the letter that the Attorney General wrote to the Speaker. It's written on 21st March. Maybe these days we have to put time on the letter, the time that it is signed. So we would have seen 21st March, 9:25 a.m., something like that. But it says 21st March. The Right Honorable Alban Sumanu Kingsford Bagbin, Speaker of Parliament, Parliament of Ghana, Accra, DSA, re. Decision to halt the approval of ministerial nominees presented to Parliament in the light of suit number so, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamapo versus 1, Speaker of Parliament, and 2, the Attorney General. Okay. Let's look at the letter, the details thereof. All right, here it is. Respectfully, the Attorney General says, I am aware of a statement made by your esteemed self in Parliament on 20th March 2024, in which you communicated the inability of the House to continue to consider the nominations of His Excellency the President. In view of the pendency of what you stated as an injunction motion on notice, seeking to restrain the Speaker from proceedings with the vetting and approval. Quote, filled in the suit's reference above. Okay, no, that's not important. Let's move on. In furtherance of my role under Article 88 of the Constitution and bearing constitutional responsibility for the conduct and defense of all civil proceedings against the state, including Parliament, I am constrained to draw your attention to some observations made from a study of the suit in question and the result of a formal search conducted at the Registry of the Supreme Court today, 21st March 2024. 1. The action filed by Mr. Dafiamapo, Member of Parliament for South Dai, consists of a bare writ of summons. No statement of case in support of the writ has been filed, as mandated by Supreme Court Rules CI 16, 1996. It is thus correct to say, respectfully, that the suit is not properly constituted. In accordance with Rule 43C of CI 16, such an action will be struck out where a statement of case in support of the plaintiff is not filed within 14 days. Let me do some explanation here. So you file a writ, as the lawyers will say. So what is the writ? The writ is like a standard form where, in the olden days, the writ, that is why they use the term, he took out a writ. So the writ is in pigeonholes, all the writ. So this pigeonhole is stealing, this pigeonhole is fraud, this pigeonhole is injunction, this pigeonhole is that, this pigeonhole is that. You go to the England where the writs, the pigeonholes are. The guy is standing in front there. You tell him, I want injunction. He says, that is a ticket. So you take out the writ of injunction. When you open the writ of injunction, there are places to fill. My name is Paul Adomotri. I am concerned because I want them to kill this person. I don't like this person because of that. You fill the form. You give it to the man. He looks at it. He stamps on it. Then now you have your own paper, which is your statement of case. Why do you want this and that to happen? Why? Because you take the rate, you pay him, you do your clerical administrative stuff. That's the rate. So every rate will be the same because your name and the things you're asking for will be similar. You just have to write in there the things you are asking for. Why are you asking for these things? Is the statement of case. So if Dafiamapo files a rate, he says that this is a rate. I'm going to add a statement of case of injunction. I want Parliament to stop vetting the ministers for the president. That's what he's asking. That's a writ. Why does he want Parliament to do that? He will now put it in the statement of claim that whereas Mr. Speaker constituted Parliament so and so and so, whereas so and so and so and so, whereas Excellency the President sent a letter on the date so and so, now therefore blah 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 whatever the legal language they pour it, and then he states why he is making that case. That's the statement of case. They call it statement of claim in the lower courts, in the Supreme Court, statement of case. So, without the statement of case, you do not actually know why Dafiamapo is in court. You know what he wants the court to do, but you don't know why. Why he wants the court to do that. The writ tells you what he wants the court to do, injunction, co warranto, certiorari, whatever. But why injunction? Why co warranto? Why the certiorari? It is in the statement of case. So, you can't react to a writ without knowing what the person is asking for and thereby close Parliament. But we'll get there. It gets even more concerning than that. All right, so that's the meaning. He says that it is thus correct to say, respectfully, that the suit is not properly constituted in accordance with the rule CI 16 46.3. Such an action will be struck out within 14. That is why the writ standing alone if within 14 days you don't bring anything, they'll strike it out. The writ is standing alone. If within 14 days you don't say why you are looking for what you are looking for, it will be struck out. The writ is taken, and then people are told that Mr. Adomotro is asking for so and so and so and so. We are all told, especially the parties that he's suing. If you don't bring your statement of case, it's as good as having abandoned the cause. Let's move on. Attorney General continues. The plaintiff has not filed an application for interlocutory injunction seeking to restrain the Speaker from proceeding with the vetting and the approval of names of the persons submitted by His Excellency the President, or indeed any other interlocutory relief. This is very loaded. The Attorney General is telling the Speaker that when you told Parliament that injunction has filed, you were not speaking correctly. I'm choosing my words. When you told the Parliament yesterday, Mr. Speaker, sitting in your chair as Speaker of Parliament, that you had received an injunction, there was nothing like that. That's what Attorney General said. The Speaker may have been misled. I think he was misled too. Who misled him? I don't know. Maybe it's Kesela Forsen. That's a joke. Anyway, but that's what the Attorney General said. That, Mr. Speaker, when yesterday you spoke to Parliament and said you had an injunction, there was nothing like that. He says the plaintiff, Mr. Dapiaf, has not, he underlines it, filed an application for interlocutory injunction seeking to restrain the Speaker from proceeding with the vetting and the approval of the names of the person submitted by His Excellency the President. There's nothing like that. He said there's absolutely nothing like that. Later on, we'll play the Majority Leader's press conference and then you can get it. But this is what he's saying. There's nothing like that. Thus, the Attorney General proceeds, there is nothing before the Supreme Court which may constitute a restraint or fetter on Parliament from proceeding with the approval of ministerial and deputy ministerial nominees presented to Parliament by the President in accordance with Article 78(1) and 79(1) of the Constitution. The Attorney General is saying in the second paragraph to the Speaker that, Mr. Speaker, you have been completely and grossly misled. Everything you said yesterday was untrue. That there's an interlocutory, there's no interlocutory injunction, that there's any injunction at all. There's nothing before the Supreme Court upon which you can restrain Parliament from going. There's absolutely nothing. That which you referred to, based on which you took your decision, does not exist. As at 9:05 today. All right. Now, this is the original, and I think if you go on Join Online, I think they also have this. This is the original document of the search that was conducted by the Attorney General. It's the Superior Court of Judicature is asking between Roxanne Dafia-Makpo and the Speaker of Parliament and the Attorney General. It's a search and it's signed by Godfrey Dame. Please cause a search to be conducted in the registry and endorse your findings thereto. Whether or not a statement of case, this is the first one. If you can't see it well, maybe viewers can read it. All right. Whether or not, I'm trying to open it up just a little bit. Okay, it's not bad. Okay, it says whether or not a statement of case in support of the plaintiff's writ has to date been filed in accordance with the Supreme Court rules. Only the writ has been filed. That was the answer. Then it goes on. 2, whether or not an application for interlocutory injunction has been filed by the plaintiff herein, and if so, when was it filed? The answer is no. 3rd, whether or not the application for interlocutory injunction has been served on any of the parties to this suit, and if so, when? The answer again is no. And so when the Speaker said that something had been filed, or that some action had been taken at the courts, and for which reason he is adjourning Parliament and cancelling the ministerial nominations reports from being considered, and also saying that this is the precedent that the President has set up. I don't know. Let's listen to Speaker Bagbin again, now that we have this background. Let's listen to what he said again. What did he say?
I also bring to your attention the receipt of a process from the courts titled Roxanne Nelson Eche K. Dafia-Makpo versus the Speaker of Parliament and the Attorney General, suit number J1/12/2024, which process was served on the 19th, that is yesterday, March 2024, and an injunction motion on notice seeking to restrain the Speaker from proceeding with the vetting and approval of the names of the persons submitted by His Excellency the President until the provisions of the Constitution are satisfied. Honorable members, in the light of this process, the House is unable to continue to consider the nominations of His Excellency the President, to use the language of the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, quote, in the spirit of upholding the rule of law, unquote, until after the determination of the application for interlocutory injunction by the Supreme Court. Honorable members, this is the precedent that is being set by His Excellency the President for all Ghanaians to follow.
That's a precedent being set by the President for all Ghanaians to follow. Alexander Afenyo-Markin, the majority leader, quickly spoke to the media after this yesterday. This is what he said.
Certain matters before the Supreme Court of the land. Which letter today Mr. Speaker had cause to respond to? Mr. Speaker expresses his agreement regarding the content of the said letter. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker went beyond expressing this agreement and rather pronounced judgment on what in his view was wrong. Mr. Speaker did not only stop there, he also used very unsavory words to describe Mr. President. We believe that in a democracy, we have a right to disagree on views expressed, but we do not have right to say things to denigrate another. This, we think, is very unacceptable. Now, let me get into the main issue. Mr. Speaker said that Mr. President was undermining democracy and that he should have resorted to the Constitution in making certain communications to the House. We in the majority beg to disagree on the position taken by him. If you carefully read the letter that was sent to Parliament, Mr. President limited himself to the processes before the courts. And the fact that Parliament itself, through an affidavit, had joined issues. Parliament has filed an affidavit in opposition and is in court. In fact, Parliament is a party to the suit. So for us, we do not see how this would have to affect the proceedings of Parliament. In any event, Mr. Speaker has always deferred to the leadership of the House to guide him in the conduct of business. This morning, the leadership of the House sat together to discuss the various items to be taken. We have finished some of them. There were some that we were supposed to take, and we're told that Mr. Speaker would have to take the chair. It's very disappointing that after Mr. Speaker had made known his own views about the letter sent from the presidency to the clerk, he adjourned the House sine die without giving room for the leadership of the House to even comment. This we find very strange. But this is a democracy. We believe, as Mr. Speaker himself said.
That was Alexander Afenyo-Markin. Let's see what people are saying, and then we come to the next part of the program. The next part of the conversation would be to now look at the letter that the president wrote to Speaker and the categorization he made, for which the Speaker says some of the nominees, for which the Afenyo boy is going to court. We'll discuss, and which has now brought the Speaker's situation this way. Let's see what people are saying, though, on the text message there. Fatih will start. What are people saying, Fatih?
Thank you, Paul. This is coming from Alhaji Yusuf Husseini, and he says, Paul, it's becoming clearer that the Speaker and Roxanne, the MP of sorts, they concluded to undermine the office of the President and stopping parliamentary business. The Speaker, in my view, was not misled. He was well aware of what he was doing and, in the process, lied to justify his actions. The Speaker from day one has been stamping his authority and using some powers outside his office. For me, his actions goes to justify Sammy Gyamfi's attacks on the Speaker, the then minority leadership, when they approved the nominations of some ministers against the instructions of the NDC party not to. Now, Rafat Hussein Gunu also says, so the Speaker was expecting the President, a lawyer of good standing, will overlook the pending case in Parliament and go ahead to pen his signature on the LGBTQ plus bill into law. Respectfully, it shouldn't be the basis to refusing to pass the vetted ministers. He should think Ghana and not NDC. Now, Abdul Ghani also says no. On the contrary, the President was being law-abiding and respecting the injunctive process pending the Supreme Court of the Republic. B, it can be said that the President did not want the powers of the Supreme Court and particularly bring the administration of justice into disrupt. The President's letter did not seek to undermine the authority of Parliament as alleged by the Speaker. The President's letter again did not breach any provision in the Constitution, and he comes again to say the President's letter was not a continuous attempt by the Executive to subvert the Constitution and undermine the work of Parliament or our democracy. Now, Wellington also says, watching you live in New York. Good evening, Paul. I'm enjoying this great show. God bless you and your crew. Now, lastly, coming from Ernest Kwejo Nyameche says, after lucidly quoting Section 5 of the Interpretation Act to validate the constitutionality of clerk to Parliament to transmit parliamentary approved bills to do executive, and the case of Wilford Quayco versus Attorney General to substantiate his argument that Parliament's work cannot be stopped by a court injunction, isn't it legally and logically absurd for Speaker Babin to still proceed to suspend vetting process for designated ministers or deputies because of same injunction? Something he vehemently disagreed in his earlier submission, or he just wants to be consistently inconsistent. What do you have for us?
All right. So Richard Buffo is saying, very educational program. Keep it up. Keep educating Ghanaians. James is saying, does the Speaker of Parliament think he has equal powers with the President? This is simply disgusting and unacceptable. From Kobe Johnson, absolutely agree with the man of God. NDC is the worst of sabotagers. From Abdul, something very interesting. He's saying, those who do not understand the science of politics, especially in our parts of the world, are those emotionally attached to the political parties and politicians. It's a game. The players know each other. They are friends outside the game, but once the cameras are on, they revert to their acts. Don't fall for their tricks. Both parties sabotage each other when their interests are threatened. They work together when they have common interests. Do not be deceived. It's always the party first, no matter which party you belong to. Last but not least, we have a message from Abdul Razak saying, Paul, honestly, some of us would encourage you to go and contest for a Jesu constituency seat. And I know you will do very well as a member of Parliament. Antoinette?
Okay, so still on the Speaker of Parliament and the Attorney General story, Mohammed says, has the court said anything about the case before them? Anyway, the other Supreme Court has spoken before the Supreme Court of the ordinary citizen. Now, Dramani Rino Nuhu has drawn a line a scoreline. He says the scoreline remains that the same. Mr. President has scored 1 and Mr. Speaker has also scored 1. Now, Smart Brown says the Attorney General can keep both his opinion and advice to the executive. He is not enjoined by the Constitution to advise Parliament when such advice is not sought. For now, he should be ignored by the Parliament. Now, Haruna Abuaji says he should go and approve himself if he has the power. The Speaker has spoken and that is final. He actually can take the Speaker to court as well. Jerome Quay says, I never knew the Attorney General can actually reply swiftly like that. Parliament 1, Attorney General's Office 1. Now, Lordina Gago says, whether or not the injunction is properly constituted, Parliament has its own rules. When the language of the law is clear and categorical, there is no reason for interpretation. The only room it creates is its unhindered application. Now, Dr. Baba Musa says, the last time I checked, Speaker Bagbin was a senior lawyer. He was called to the bar in 1982. At the time, Godfred Yeboah Odame was 3 years old. So, if for nothing at all, the Speaker is certainly not oblivious to the law, and that must be stated clearly. Now, lastly, Andrews Bradshaw says, the Speaker of Parliament is relatively stiff-necked. The Attorney General must file a case against him as well. He actually thinks he knows it all, which is why Muntaka had a standoff with him last 2 years, which made them relieve them of their position as leaders of the minority. He is the Speaker in this Fourth Republic. Angelo.
Obama from Koyotafa says, I will forever blame the NPP MP who spoiled his vote during the Speaker's election. Alban Bagbin is arrogating powers to himself, which he doesn't have. He can't stop parliamentary vetting processes. Besides, Obama continues, he lied about impending case in court about the new nominee, which has triggered him to also stop the vetting process. The Dafiamakwa case is about the assigned ministers. This is how we want to lower our country into. Now, Togbe Igori Fiagat says, the question that arises in all this is, does the Speaker of Parliament have the power to pause the activities of Parliament without the explicit decision of elected members of the House? We run what is called the executive presidency in Ghana, and the executive powers of state are mostly exercised by the president on behalf of those who elect him. The Speaker of Parliament cannot assume the position of a president, neither can he pretend to be part of the executive either. I find his conduct quite ludicrous and an affront to not only participatory democracy, but also to parliamentary democracy, he says. Continuing, in any case, the Speaker of Parliament is a non-elective member of the House. He holds only optimal decision-making powers and cannot seek to stifle the activities or responsibilities of elected members of Parliament. I find his conduct quite astonishing, he continues, considering his level of exposure and time in the House. Now, Fred says, please, is Mr. Bagbin not a lawyer? But what will happen? He asked also, what will government lose if Nana signs the bill? The country is too hot right now. And lastly, Roberto from Takoradi says, I should think that now the NPP MPs who voted for Speaker Bagbin should have their heads buried in shame, and the decision they took on 7th January 2021 will live with them forever. Paul, to you.
Well, there's more for us to discuss tonight. We're going to look at that rates now, Dafiamakwa's situation. What is he calling for and why is he calling for it? Is he concerned about ministers who have gone through the vetting process, or is he concerned about another set of ministers? We'll begin that conversation with the president's letter. So let's take our final break. I apologize. Let's take our final break now, and then we will get onto those analyses very, very shortly. We'll be right back. So it's always a pleasure to bring it to you. Let's continue. Let's get on with it. Let's get on with it right now. Okay, let me. Alrighty. Yes. So we are now going to understand, and we have to say it's good work that Roxanne Dafiamakwa is doing. Testing the law is always important for the development of a fledgling democracy. So We have to put that on record that Dafe Mapo hasn't done anything wrong. He's actually doing something very good, trying to test the law for us all to understand. That's all what he's about. He's not for or against anyone. I can't say that because I have no evidence of that. He's just testing the law. This is the letter that the president sent to the speaker, based on which Dafe Mapo is gone to court. This is the letter the president sent to the speaker. And it's a communication from Jubilee House. It's for immediate release. The contents of this is the press release, but the contents of this and the contents of the letter are the same. It says, President Akufo-Addo makes changes to the executive. Exit from office. A. The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has relieved the following ministers and deputy ministers of their portfolios in government with immediate effect. Viewers, I want you to take notice of that. They have been relieved of their portfolios in government. I don't know whether I wish I could write on it. Okay, where's the pen? Is it still in the corner over there? Okay. So this. No, you can't. I cannot write. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll get the writing later. So the president has relieved them of their portfolios in government. There's a reason why we should consider the word portfolios. When we come to look at Article 78, it will be clear in our minds. It's not boring. It's interesting. Don't worry. I will make it very interesting. So, with immediate effect, these are Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry, Health Minister Kweku Agyeman-Menu, Environment Minister Kweku Ofori. Now, take note of these names. They have been relieved of their portfolios in government. Portfolio. What is a portfolio? A portfolio is a ministerial, the occupation of a minister. So he occupies transport. That's his portfolio. Transport. Attorney General. That's his portfolio. Finance. That's his portfolio. That is why there's something called ministers without portfolio. That's it. Ministers without portfolio. Or simply ministers of state. And then they can add at the office of the president. But there can be an appointment called Paul Ademotre, Minister of State. Full stop. Finish. He has no portfolio. So the letter says that the president has relieved them of portfolio. We'll come and see the distinction between portfolio and minister of state. This is the Dafe Mapo's rate that we're looking at. All right. So take note of these names. For instance, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, information, relieved of his portfolio, information. Okay. So the portfolio is the ministry. Maybe Eugene should have put the word portfolio here, but he put the word ministry. It means the same thing. Roads and Highways, Francis Asensio Boakye, relieved of his portfolio as Minister of Works and Housing, Asensio Boakye. And then the rest follow. Okay. The letter goes on to say, so this is the end of all of them, and it ends by saying that the president personally expresses his sincere appreciation directly to each of the ministers and deputy ministers who have exited government for their commitment, competence, dedication, and hard work in office, which helped in the realization of the government's mandate. Okay. Ministers and deputy ministers, yes, who have exited government. So that is ministers and deputy ministers whose portfolio have been taken and who have not been given new portfolio. Then this one, B, new ministerial and deputy ministerial nominees. Following the reorganization of government, President Akufo-Addo has submitted to Parliament for prior approval through the Speaker, the Right Honourable Alban Sumanu Kingsford Bagbain, the names of the following persons for appointment as ministers and deputy ministers of state, in accordance with Articles 78, 79, and 256, respectively, of the Constitution. Now, Health, nominee, Dr. Okoboy. Science, Environment, Technology, and Innovation, nominee, Honourable Ophelia Mensah Hayford, MP, former, I think it's DSP or Superintendent, can't remember. Information, Ms. Fatima Abubakar. Gender, Children, and Social Protection, Dakwa Newman. Martin J. Mensah Kosa for Local Government. Lydia Sarah Malahassan for Water Resources. Andrew Japa Mensah for Tourism. Titus Global for Greater Accra. And Daniel Machato for OT Region. Now, this is the president in keeping with his normal responsibility. He's nominated people and says, take them through the vetting. These people have been vetted. The report is ready for consideration and perhaps voting. And Speaker says, because Dafe Mapo has a writ in Parliament challenging another category of ministers. The Dafiam Apostolate is not challenging these ministers. The report that was ready before the House is about these ministers. It has nothing to do with the Dafiam Apostolate. But the Speaker said that because of the Dafiam Apostolate, he has to stop this process. No one can stop this process. No rate reasonably can stop this process except to say that one of the names mentioned there is not qualified and blah, blah, blah. That will be determined by the Appointments Committee. No Supreme Court decision can stop this process. That's a matter of fact. No Supreme Court decision can stop a process under Article 78 where the President has nominated people for Parliament's consideration. That is an instruction of Article 78. Can we look at Article 78 briefly and then we'll come back, please? Can we look at it very quickly and then we come back? They'll put it on for us right now. Yes, thank you. Article 78, Ministers of State. Ministers of State shall be appointed by the President with the prior approval of Parliament from among members of Parliament or persons qualified to be elected as members of Parliament, except that the majority of Ministers of State shall be appointed from among members of Parliament. 2. The President shall appoint such number of Ministers of State as may be necessary for the efficient running of the state. So if the President in exercise of Article 78(1) says that I've appointed Abena Osei-Asare for the position of Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, I've appointed Andre Japa-Mensah for the position of Minister of State, Tourism, I've appointed X person for the position of Minister of State, Works and Housing. How is a RIT going to challenge this process? The only ones who can challenge this process is the Appointments Committee, where the people come before them and they nominate them. They finish that work. So this is the crux of the Speaker's concern. This is the crux of those who are concerned about the Speaker's expressions yesterday. This is the very first one. This is a political faux pas, almost that. Because Dafiam Apostolate is not concerned about it. He cannot be concerned about this. Nobody can be concerned about this. This is the position of the law. You have to nominate. You can say that ministers are too plenty or there are too many. You can say that. It's okay to say that. But here's Article 78(2). It says the President shall appoint such number of ministers of state as may be necessary for the efficient running of his government. They give the President a limitless lead to appoint as many ministers. I think that in Ghana, you can have 40 ministers of state and some deputies. I think. That's me. That's my own personal opinion. Another person thinks 50. Another person thinks 60. Those who have been presidents before, John Kufuor and John Mahama and co., they all tell us that they thought they could do with fewer, but when they got in, they noticed that they needed more. So Kufuor had 80-something, Rawlings had 80-something, Hoover around 80, Akufo-Addo took it to 120, brought it back to 80. But the numbers of ministers a president may have is out there, under the law. So we can all agree that it's too plenty, but it's not a constitutional matter. It's not a matter to be raised before the Supreme Court. So this is the issue. All right. Before we get to the Dafiam Apostolate, though, or should we? What's the last one? Deputy ministers. Okay, 79 is the same. The President may, in consultation with Minister of State and with the prior approval of Parliament, appoint one or more deputy ministers. We'll come back to 78, 79. Let's continue with let's look at the third category of the President's letter to Parliament. Let's get back to that. It's going to come up very shortly. And then we get back to that. So we've dealt with two categories. Category 1, people who have been relieved of their portfolio. Category 2, people who have been appointed for under Article 78 for prior approval of Parliament. This is Category 3. Where is it? Let's get to the Category 3, the assigned ministers. Okay. Yes, so it starts from here. C. Reassigned ministers and deputy ministers. The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has reassigned the following ministers of state and deputy ministers of state to new offices and has directed that they assume their respective duties with immediate effect. Finance, Mohammed Amin Adam. No vetting. So the Dafiam Apostolate is about these people. Mohammed Amin Adam, Henry Quartey, Francis Asensu Boakye, Kojo Ponkroma, and Ambrose Derry. Why is it important? You can see here that Ambrose Derry has been made Minister of State. So in the case of Ambrose Derry, all what has happened is that his portfolio at Interior has been taken away from him. But he remains a Minister of State. So there's a distinction between a Minister of State and a Minister of State's portfolio. So when he says that they have been relieved of portfolio, he hasn't been relieved of his role and appointment as Minister of State, properly vetted by Parliament and returned to the President as passed. So when you are being vetted as Minister of State. You are not necessarily being vetted for tourism, So if you pass as Minister of State, then you take your portfolio. And you take your portfolio, and the president can switch the portfolio around so long as it's in the context of the same Minister of State and Article 78. There are two types of ministers in Ghana. Article 78 appointees and Article 79 appointees. 78 is Minister of State, 79 is Deputy Minister. Those are the two types of ministers. So if you are appointed under 79 and you are moving to 78, you go to vetting. If you are appointed under 79, as Deputy Minister, you can be moved anywhere as Deputy Minister. You don't go to bed. That's the learning that has been handed down to us from the Constitution. I'll give you the example. Are we done with this? Yes. Let's get back to Article 78. Let's look at the United States of America. Maybe we should have looked for a logo when I'm talking about America to put it there. In the United States of America, the appointment, the Parliament doesn't have an appointment committee as such. What they do is when the President has nominated persons for ministerial positions, it is the relevant committee that vets you. So the president nominates you for foreign minister, which is their Secretary of State. The Foreign Affairs Committee in Parliament will vet you because they are vetting you as Foreign Affairs Minister. If the president nominates you as Minister for Food and Agriculture, they call them secretaries. Secretary for Food and Agriculture in America, you go to Congress, the Parliament, and you are vetted by the Food and Agriculture Committee. I remember sometime in 2001 or so, we had an IAEA event in Koforidua, and some of us, I was one of those, who canvassed for this position. I think Kwame Nahoy was there. Jean Mensah chaired as usual. I canvassed for this position among other people because we thought that it is a better way to extract a lot more from the ministerial nominees. Because if you're a ministerial nominee for health, and then you go to the health committee, definitely there will be some doctors there. Definitely there will be some health personnel there. If you're a ministerial nominee for information, and you come to the information committee, there will be some people who have done graphic or something, ABF Husseini and co, who have been editors of graphic. They'll be there to engage with you. But somehow we didn't succeed. The 1992 Constitution does not directly say that. Standing orders of Parliament have changed over time. They haven't said that. So in America, if you are vetted for Minister of Foreign Affairs and the president is changing you to Agric, you go back to vetting. Agric will vet you. That's not what we have here. What we have here is a select committee of Parliament called the Appointments Committee. Parliament, in its wisdom, has done its best to put people in the committee who have different kinds of skills so that through Parliament's efforts, it appears, or it would appear, that given the skill set available with the 275, the Appointments Committee will have as much substance as it ought to have within the limits of the skill set available to Parliament and the members of the House. Now, if you come to, let's go 78. You have 78, yes. If you come to 78, it says, Ministers of State shall be appointed by the President with the prior approval of Parliament from among members of Parliament or from persons qualified to be elected as members of Parliament. So the person that is seeking the prior approval is Minister of State. It's not Minister for Agric. It's not Minister for Finance. It's not Minister for Environment. It's Minister of State first. So I can go to Parliament to be vetted as Minister for President's nominee for Minister for Interior, whatever. Because of my history in public life, my 8 or 16 hour or 500 hour vetting can be on media only. But the nomination is for Interior. Because they are vetting you as Minister of State first. In fact, I can go through a vetting, nobody will ask anything about Interior. They will still determine that I have passed. Because I've discharged myself before the House, I have no criminal record, I'm a man of good standing, blah, blah, blah. Those qualifications set in the Constitution is what the Appointments Committee is invited to evaluate. So, if Kojo Oppong Nkrumah is nominated for Minister of Finance, a lot of the vetting can be about media, about his past job as Information Minister. He can spend 17 hours asking him questions about when you were Information Minister, this happened. When you were Information Minister, this happened. If he discharges himself well, they'll pass him. They don't need to ask him anything about finance. The last of the examples is the worst one. After the Parliament has done their vetting and they send a list to the President, that Mr. President, the Appointments Committee had looked at your 17 nominees and they have all passed as follows. Paul Adomotri, Foreign Affairs, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, this, Kwame Okudzeto Ablakwa, that, Captain Smart, Sports, and all that. The President can, in swearing the ministers in, swap it. The law allows him to do that. Because what he's sending to the president can also, that's A. B, the president can also send the list to Parliament without adding the portfolio that these are 8 people to be interviewed for ministers of state. Finish. The only minister that the president cannot treat in this manner is in Article 88, the Attorney General. That is the only minister prescribed by the Constitution, that there shall be an Attorney General. The Constitution doesn't say there shall be Interior Minister, there shall be Finance Minister, there shall be this, there shall be that. Of course, Kwame Nkrumah read his own budget in Parliament. Everybody knows that. So that doesn't matter. That's why a chairman supposed to read the budget in Parliament. That's the president's budget. It's not Ken Ofori-Attah's budget, too. It is His Excellency the President's budget. Any budget is the president. It's not Kwesi Botre's budget. It's J.J. Rawlings' budget. It's not Kwabena Dufour's budget. It's Professor Mills's budget. It's not Seth Terkper's budget. It's John Maham's budget. It's the president's budget. That's what he's reading. The president can come and read it himself. The vice president can read it. Any minister can read it. Anybody can be called upon. Minister of State and Office of the President, Professor Kofi Awono, go and deliver the budget to Parliament. And you come to the House and says that I have been instructed by His Excellency the President to appear before the House and deliver the budget, and I seek permission of the Speaker to do so now. Then they will say, yeah. So, okay, go ahead. They say, Mr. Speaker, last year we had Cocoa Days, he starts, go. He finishes, he's gone. It's the President's budget. So, Dafem Apostle rates, his concern is that the said ministers who have been reassigned had been earlier relieved of their appointments. That's what he's saying. He's trying to find a space in there where he's suggesting that Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah had been taken out as a minister by the use of the word relieved from their portfolios. That is the Dafem Apostle rate. It's an interesting rate. It's a beautiful one. I mean, I disagree with it. Some people may agree, some people may disagree. Everybody has an opinion on this. Everybody ought to have an opinion on this. That's the point of the matter. The 78 say that they are vetting Oppong-Nkrumah for the position of Minister for Information. No. As far as we are concerned, it said Oppong-Nkrumah is being vetted as Minister of State. So Ambrose Derry, if Dafem Apostle says Ambrose Derry should be vetted, he's being vetted for what? He was Minister for Interior. The portfolio of Interior has been taken away from him. He remains a Minister of State. You have already vetted him. What is Dafem Apostle saying? Ambrose Derry should be vetted for what? Minister of State. He's already it. That's the rate that Dafem Apostle has sent. So with this kind of rate, how then is the Speaker stopping nominees that have come clear from Article 78? Okoboy, he's sitting somewhere, he's been nominated as Minister of Health. He comes to Parliament, vetting goes on. Speaker says, we have truncated the process because there's a writ. Very unfortunate. That's not what the writ is about. I think that our case is made. Let's get the text messages, the final one, and then we go on to our sports presentations. We have a Formula 1 presentation, and we also do have a sports presentation, and then we have some teasers to come along. So I guess I begin with Fatih.
Well, this is coming from Semaila Kabarentis. Can Speaker be sanctioned or removed from his official? Also, this is coming from Richard Combe, and he says, Paul, you should have started the chronology of proceedings by displaying the letter from the Office of the President restricting the anti-LGBTQ+ bill being remitted to the Office of the President. 2. The interlocutory injunction by Nelson St. the Femiapo against the Speaker and the Attorney General, and analysis the determination of the Speaker. I think the people will understand better the flow of the information. Now, Kofi J. Nyako also says, clearly Mr. Speaker connived with the NDC to embarrass the country Ghana. Great and educative peace. Watching you from Virginia. My greetings to Fatih. Hi, Kofi. Coming from Nixon Asian, it says, good evening, Paul. Since it has come to that, the Speaker lied to suspend sitting over nothing. What's the way forward and what can be done to him? Now, lastly, this is coming from Wellington Ade. It says, watching you live in New York City. Good evening, Paul. I'm enjoying this great show. God bless you and your crew. Now, from our sponsor, Betway. It says, Charlie, the season is getting hotter and the odds are getting sweeter. Don't be left out in the action. Betway Top-Up is here to assist customers with easier deposit options. Look out for the top-up icon at a Momo vendor near you and deposit cash into your Betway account. Visit betway.com.gh and click on your top-up or call us on 05529237771. To be a vendor now, no charges on deposits. Betway, bet the responsible way. No under 18. Terms and conditions apply. Regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Betway gets way more. What do you have for us?
So, from Kobe Johnson, well done to the government, the sports ministry, and everyone involved in organizing the All-African Games. Proud to be Ghanaian living abroad, Ghanaians must try not to always talk down on their country. From Martha Ishan, NDC and their way of comprehending issues is Ghana's biggest problem. From Obi, regardless of our disagreements with Paul, let's all agree that Paul indeed makes boiling hot issues cool down with simple and easy education. From our sponsor, Blue Jeans Energy Drink. Blue Jeans Energy Drink has been on the Ghanaian market for over 20 years. We already know what it does for the body. It contains vitamins and nutrients like vitamin B2, vitamin B3, B6, B12, as well as taurine and guarana, which are known to boost your strength and energy, as well as promote high performance and endurance. Blue Jeans Energy Drink has been tested and tried. It is indeed the best. Blue Jeans Energy Drink is for bold and active men and women, so go on, grab a can and power your day. It's in shops nationwide. For bulk purchases, contact Budget Cash and Carry Limited on 0208 128 190, 0208 128 190, or 055 001 0000, 055 001 0000. Antoinette?
So still on the Attorney General story, Kwame Yeboah Afari says, hope they are learning that never on earth do you give a dagger to your political opponent, because he would definitely use it no matter what someday. Now, Kwame Sapon says, Paul, I think and I knew that the speaker is an astute lawyer. Why did he forget that a valid writ must accompany a statement of case? Unnecessary politics would definitely not help Ghana. George Boapon says, this is why the constitution of the country should be reviewed. How on earth should the speaker say something to refuse what the president has said and decided on? Now, Justin Benzema says it is very clear that the speaker wasn't happy with a letter from the presidency. So he demonstrated that by doing what he did. I am sure that after he took that unpopular decision, he said within himself, he had shown the president where power lies. Very bad precedents being set by the speaker because of his political interest. Amu Kwajo Obrimpon says to tell Godfred Dami to go and preside as the speaker because he can't direct the speaker to do what he wants. Now, Michael Tete says that's the Attorney General's view of the matter. He actually should leave the court to make the final determination. Now, lastly, Felix Koyiri says it still needs to be dealt with either way. We have that penchant of doing things without recourse to sound reasoning in our quest to rule. When the going gets tough, the tougher must get going. This is a simple you do me and I do you in return. Now, from our sponsor, Amen Alternative Medical Hospital. Amen Alternative Medical Hospital is the first to modernize herbal and homeopathy medicine in Ghana with our trained and experienced medical practitioners from KNUST. Combined with state-of-the-art medical equipment, every hidden ailment will be diagnosed with ease and treatment given in no time. We offer consultation, counseling, physiotherapy, homeopathy to treat most ailments. Your life is precious, so secure a good health with Amen Alternative Medical Hospital. Our working hours are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. from Monday to Saturday, and on Sundays we work from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Locate us at Klagon on the Lashibia Sharman Road near the Underbridge. Book an appointment with us on 0207-229-505 or 0244-227-192. Amen Alternative Medical Hospital. God is our healer. Angelo.
Some Teshinungwa believes that the entire machine support the NDC is diabolical. Joe, I think some more specifics would have placed your assertion in context. Nonetheless, Rafat Hussein Gudu says, so the Speaker was expecting the President, a lawyer of good standing, to overlook the pending case in Parliament and go ahead to pen his signature on the LGBTQ bill into law. Now there's a response to this, and he says, do you know the difference between a private member's bill and that of the executive? The e-levy was an emergency bill that needed swift approval to prevent a shutdown of the government. Now, Samala Kaburi has a concern he wants to raise. He wants to know if the Speaker can be sanctioned or removed from his office. And Barima responds saying, yes, he can be removed through impeachment. And Samala comes back saying, with this evidence, then, they have to initiate the impeachment proceedings. Now, I have something for you. If you're like me, you like exercising, climbing stairs, and so on. But as you age, you realize that it becomes very, very difficult. And now, on that note, our friends at Lifts and Elevators Ghana have this for you. They say, enjoy the fruits of your labor. But as humans, aging and physical infirmity stand in the way of enjoying our mansions and our homes. And it often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in, day out, as we'd like to. But please worry no more, because with portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, you are sure of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions and your homes. Now, it's a simple-to-use, self-supported elevator for vertical movements of humans and goods at homes and offices. Now, the original comes in 3 custom-made models with wheelchair accessibility to choose from. You might call it a luxury if you want to, but do note that it is a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Get one for your easy vertical mobility at your home or your office. Now, it's quite affordable and can be installed within just 3 days with a few modifications done to your building. Now, do visit Lifts and Elevators Ghana at Sakumono for your solutions and your free consultations. And call us now 35515 0200-535-515, or just email elevatorsgh@gmail.com. Paul, to you.
Okay, welcome back. And let's do some Formula One action. Nisaki is here to give us an update. So you said there's a Grand Prix in Australia.
Yes.
So what's happening? Is that a league table?
Yes, as it stands at the moment. After 2 Grand Prix in the Middle East, in Bahrain and in Saudi, these are the standings. Red Bull Racing is defending their world title championship.
They are the defending champions?
Yes.
They won the last season?
They won the last season. Their driver also won the World Drivers' Championship, Max Verstappen from Netherlands.
Oh, you can win the title and your driver is not the world's best driver?
Yes, it's possible.
Another driver will be the world's best driver?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's Formula One is split into 2 leagues. There's the Drivers' Championship, which has Hamilton and so on. And then there's the Constructors' Championship, which involves the teams. So, so because each team contributes 2 drivers to the grid, each of their results in a race contributes to their standings.
Oh, at the league table. Okay. So if you are first and your partner driver is 7th, it's reducing your...
Yes, it will affect
But can you be first and second? So Red Bull is first and Red Bull is second?
So in the last couple of races, Red Bull has won 1-2 in the first couple of races. They are first and second. First and second in the 2 races so far.
Wow.
And it's looking very ominous because their car for this season is very, very, very fast.
Are there some cars faster than others?
Yes.
I thought it's the driver's skill that determines it.
No, so it's a development war. There's the driving angle and there's a development war on the engineering side. And that's what makes the biggest difference.
So each one is trying to better his.
Exactly.
Like Apple and Android.
And Samsung fighting with each other.
Yeah, trying to better their phone, better your phone. So they're trying to better their car with each season.
With each race, actually.
Oh,
so the car that you see in the first race isn't the same car you're seeing in the middle of the season. They bring new developments. They take different parts of the body work to make the cars run faster and all of that. So there's 2 wars going on.
Okay, so to win, the engineering must be very strong.
The engineering
it's not just the driver.
It's not just the driver.
Oh, I see.
So when people say that Hamilton was winning for so long and that it was because of the car, it was because Mercedes nailed their engineering. And it was for a regulatory period for about 8 years. So they were first from 2014 all the way through to 2021. They won all the championships.
When you say they nailed the engineering, what does it mean?
It means they built a car that could decimate the rest of the field. It was faster.
And nobody could build a better car until 8 years later.
Until 8 years later, because of the regulations. And at that time, they had
copyright regulations, I guess.
Engineering regulation.
That when I've done something, you cannot copy it. Is that what it is?
You can copy it, but you can't copy it exactly the way it is. You can, if you have an idea of how it works, you can implement it in your own way.
But they will check whether you have actually copied in total or it is the allowable copying.
Exactly. So at the end of 2 races, this is how it stands. Red Bull has 87 points. Ferrari has 49 points. But then that's because one of their drivers fell sick. He had appendicitis.
But why? They can't replace? They don't have bench?
So they had to bring in a driver from Formula 2.
Okay.
A younger driver who had never driven in Formula 1, but he's their reserve driver. They brought him in. He did a stellar job in Saudi Arabia.
Did he win any?
He didn't win, but he scored points. And each single point, so this 1 point for Haas, for instance, it translates into tens of millions of dollars in prize money at the end of the season.
I see. So, but the point gap that you're showing, it will appear that Red Bull have a big lead.
A very, very massive lead. And it doesn't look like something that the rest of the field will catch up to anytime soon.
So, but Hamilton is Mercedes.
Hamilton is Mercedes.
They are all the way at 4.
Yes. At the end of last season, Mercedes was second in the constructors. They won second in the whole constructors title championship. This year, with the kind of car they've brought, they've redesigned their car and all of that based on Hamilton's feedback and so on. They haven't seemed to have found the exact sweet spot for getting the car to run the way they want it to run. So Mercedes is performing very, very poorly, and they've scored very, very bad points in the last couple of races. From what they're saying this weekend, from all the noise that's going on, they seem to have an idea of where the problem is and they're working to resolve it, but it doesn't look good at the moment.
These people, can they drive normal cars? Can Hamilton take a normal Mercedes E-Class in Munich and drive it on the road? Will he obey the regulations?
They do.
Will he stop when he has to? Is he able to do that?
He says he doesn't like driving, actually.
At all.
He doesn't enjoy driving off the track.
Of course.
Because it's too slow.
It's very, very slow and boring.
Yes,
and traffic and all that.
And he says one of the things is that even though he doesn't want to drive fast, before he realizes it,
he's getting into it.
So he prefers to be driven. The rest of them, they also engage in a lot of driving off the track and all of that.
So what's your final word? What's your prediction for this weekend?
This weekend, Red Bull will win.
They'll win the first and second?
First, second, they will win.
Who will come second, do you think?
Sergio Perez, the second driver for Red Bull.
But who will come third then, you reckon?
Third, most likely, Ferrari.
Again?
Yes.
So the league table is unlikely to change after this weekend?
It's between the top 5 teams and the bottom 5 teams. It's as if you're running 2 different leagues.
Okay.
These teams in the bottom 5, Haas, Williams, Sauber, RB, and Alpine, they struggle to even score a point in a.
But they still make a lot of money.
They still make a lot of money. They are in Formula 1. They will make money. It's a burgeoning business.
So this top 5, you expect them to be the same?
I expect that there may be some changes. Mercedes might move up. They might move down, but they won't fall into the bottom half.
Okay, so the top 5 will be the same.
Yes.
Okay, Nisaki, we'll come back on Tuesday and check whether the top 5 is the same. Now let's get another presentation from sports. Okay, yes, free tickets, excellent. Sportsman will come and do the free tickets. Let's see whether you people got some one text on, or maybe there were many on Formula 1. Fatih, do you watch Formula 1? Have you watched one before? Anziba, have you watched Formula 1 before? Which one did you remember watching?
Super Sports. I can't quite remember the exact race, but it was an interesting one.
Who was driving?
I don't know their names.
But you just saw the cars moving?
Yeah.
They were moving very fast?
Very fast.
And they were changing the tires in some miraculous way?
Yes.
You saw the changing of the tires?
I did.
It was like a miracle?
Yeah.
Prophetic miracle. Okay, let's see what people are saying. Get ready. Come in.
So, and not Formula 1. Have been breaking my heart for the past 3 years. The RW15 is worse than my Mazda 3. What do you have for us?
And that she has placed a bet on them. And then Lily Rose also continues to say, Paul, I will be going to Dubai to watch the grand finale this year. It's amazing to watch it live to appreciate the speed of those cars.
Paul, earlier, somebody is asking you, says, Paul, why do you say Captain Smart for sports? Why do you make that suggestion? Also, now an update on that impeachment conversation that they're having on the feed. Berima updates and says, anyone who wishes to proceed on any impeachment process must first check if the conduct falls within the impeachment category. Anyway, let's go back to you, Paul.
Are we ready? I thought you'd give me some time to remain on my grandfather's chair for a little bit. But our sports lawyer is here. Tell us about free tickets.
Yes.
All Africa Games.
Yes, so the plan initially was to sell some tickets, going for 100 cedis, some going for 50 cedis, some going for 200 cedis. But they saw the enthusiasm from the fans, and then they have given free tickets to fans.
So how many do we have here?
We have almost 15.
15 tickets? Yeah. For which game? The athletics final?
Yes.
At the University of Ghana? It's tomorrow. What time?
That's in the evening.
So how will you share the tickets?
I think I have to do a giveaway on maybe social media.
Social media giveaway? Yeah. But Mumi, do you want one ticket? Yes. So you give Mumi one, then you give the ladies. Okay. Antoinette, are you still on campus? No. But would you like to go and watch All Africa Games? No, you don't want to go and watch. Okay. All right, but give us some more information. What's happening? Who is our new coach?
So it's Otu Addo. We have done Sankofa. He was our former coach before we went to take Chris Hughton, and he's back again together with John Pinto, our former left back, and also
Fatau Dauda. I can see him in the photograph over here.
Yes.
So all the demonstrations came to zero.
Looks like we have gone for an old player again, and he also brought along UEFA Pro License A coach Joseph Loffman. So Joseph Loffman recently was coaching at Barnsley. That's in the Championship of England. That was like a few years ago. Joseph Pinto, or John Pinto, was the assistant coach of Kaizer Chiefs in South Africa. That was as 2016, 2017, and also our own Dauda was the goalkeeper's trainer for the Sudanese national team just recently.
With Kwesi Appiah?
Yes, Kwesi Appiah. So he has left the post, leaving only Kwesi Appiah there. So yeah, let's touch on athletics and Benjamin Azamati, our only hope in the 100-meter race, placed 5th, 10.45 seconds. It wasn't really a good time to qualify for the Olympics, but he has another chance again. There's always going to be another chance. In May, there will be another athletics open in
10.5.
10.45. So bad.
Almost 11.
Yes.
So when I was in Presec, I was doing 9.97.
That's very good. That's very good. So yeah, he was our only hope, but that's O2 there. O2 Addo coming back, and then tomorrow we have a big game, a derby against
tomorrow.
Yes, Nigeria.
Friday.
Yes.
Where?
Marrakesh, Morocco.
Time.
1 p.m. 1 p.m.
Ghana time 1 p.m.
Yeah.
It will be in the studio. Is GBC showing it?
GBC, GTV Sports Plus will show it. So against Nigeria.
Please get GBC Sports Plus. Tomorrow 1 o'clock we'll be here. Can watch.
Yeah. So
and if we score Nigeria, then we accept Otu Addo. If Nigeria scores, then we say no.
Then we say he should go out. But yeah, Nigeria also have problems. So that's John Pinto, our very own established John Pinto, and yes. So these are his pictures from his playing days.
We remember him.
So with Nigeria, they've also chosen an interim coach. That's Finidi George. If you remember him, he played for Ajax, won the Champions League together with his compatriot.
There he is, Finidi George.
Yeah, he looks a bit older now. He used to have this.
Did he play on the right wing or was it left?
Left wing, very skillful left winger, together with Litzmanen, and then also Kanu in those days. So yes, that's Finidi George. Then the Nigerian players, the camp, that's Iheanacho. And then, these are the players, Iwobi, and then all these players are in camp, and then they are saying they will beat Ghana. This is a deadly.
But on current form from the African Cup of Nations, they probably are better.
Oh, yeah. So the FIFA rankings came just last week, and they moved from 42nd to 24th.
Yeah,
and Ghana moved from 61st to 68th, so we are retrogressing, and they are progressing. So they will have every right to say.
Why are we playing in Morocco, though?
So I think they want to test the grounds for next year's AFCON. Next year's AFCON will be in June in Morocco. So Morocco also will host the World Cup in 2030 together with Portugal and also Spain. They are neighbors, even though they are continents apart. So yeah, they are trying to test the pitch. So on Tuesday we'll be facing so that's the FIFA rankings now for Nigeria. 28 rather. So 28 from 42 to 28. That's an impressive jump. And Ghana is from 61st to 68. Really, really bad. So this is Nigeria, and then some players that are missing. Osimhen.
Osimhen is not in.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has some little injury. For Ghana also is Partey. He just came back from injury, and then Arsenal don't want to risk him. Inaki too picked up an injury, so Alexi Bilbao doesn't want to risk him also. And also our very own Joseph Pinto. He just moved to LA Galaxy and is having immigration issues, so there's no way he can come. And also Kudus also picked a groin injury very, very late on. That was last week at West Ham, so he will also not come around.
So are you brothers who dominate the forward line then?
Oh yes, they are ever ready to serve the nation. One thing I can't always take away from them is they are ever ready to serve the nation. Even though whatever Ghanaians talk about them, that they are not good. One thing I like about them is they are always ready to serve. And if you're ready to serve, I like you.
Okay,
like
great.
Yes. So yeah. And the hockey. So that was during the course of the week. On Monday, Patience Singwalile, that's the South African head of the sports, said the team is not going to play the hockey. That's both men and women. Why? Because our pitches are not substandard. So one thing is, with hockey tournaments, the governing body, that's like a FIFA, of the hockey has to come and check 3 months before. But our Theodore Oko, the hockey stadium wasn't ready until last week. So it means that it wasn't even ready to meet the substandard for the tournament to commence. But the tournament is still ongoing though. Ghana is through to the quarterfinals. South Africa has left both men and also women. But yes, we have one thing from the African Hockey Federation president. He's praising the quality of the pitch amid South Africa's withdrawal. So South Africa is saying, your pitch is bad, but a whole hockey African president is saying that our pitches are good because it's still ongoing. They are still playing. Nigeria is also through to the quarterfinals. So I don't know, South Africa.
That South Africa situation is something we have to discuss in some detail. Do you have a final round of text messages, please? Let's do a final round. Fatih first, and then we call it a day.
All right. So still on the Speaker of Parliament, Molo Lemba says, Paul, why wouldn't the minority in Parliament boycott the vetting processes instead, but join the vetting committee to vet designated appointees of the president? Thereafter, come out with excuses to reject them on grounds that there are too many. After taking their allowances, these double standards NDC MPs. Now, also coming from Kirkley says, the decision of the Speaker to adjourn Sine-Die without recourse to members of Parliament, most importantly, the leadership of the House, was arbitrary and undemocratic. The subtle practice has always been that leadership of the House, led by the majority leader, guides the chair in the conduct of business in the House. On this occasion, the leadership of the House had agreed on the number of businesses to be taken, that is tax waivers, laying down of papers, considering of bills, and the approval of ministerial nominees. It is regrettable to note that critical government funds needed for important government projects on water and sanitation have been denied the people of this country. Needed funds to shore our forests have also been denied. Minority in response to the letter from the presidency to set an agenda for a parochial political interest. It is therefore without doubt that this and other actions we have known in the past, including an attempt to reject the budget statement of 2022, are part of a grand scheme to Ghanaians to vote them into power. Instead of the NDC to come out with its clear policy alternative, it's rather using its strength in Parliament and the advantage of the Speaker being one of them is obstructing government's business. Lastly, coming from Richard, but it's very educational.
Okay, on Sports Daily says, Paul, you should go and see Formula One live, and trust me, you're going to love it. Rebecca Lancaster says, fellow Ghanaians, let's unite to impeach Speaker Bagbin for taking double salaries when he was the majority leader in Parliament in the SWAL government. Antoinette?
So Hajia has just one question. He says, what's the urgency with the LGBT bill as compared to the ministers who are to serve Ghana in their various ministries? Angelo?
Reverend Takrady says, Ghana has won the gold. The girls have made us proud. They beat Nigeria 2-1. And Christ the King, an account called Christ the King Ghana Methodist Church says, watching you live as always from Athens, Georgia, USA. We hope you are enjoying the books, Paul. Great job and keep it up. Blessings to you. Paul, that's it from us.
Okay, so that's about it for Good Evening Ghana tonight. It's always a pleasure bringing it to you. We're past 11. Thanks for watching and staying with us for this week. We'll be back with another edition on Tuesday. Bye-bye.